Hey there folks, welcome back to the Moto Dance Garage, and today we're going to be doing head bearings on my 2002 Meanstreak. Now if you watched my new bike video, you'll notice that as soon as I picked this up I noticed that the steering felt funny. At low speed I thought I had a flat tyre. I didn't really think too much of it at the time, because as soon as you get above 50 k's I didn't really notice it, but the more I rode it, the more I thought, oh no, there's a definite problem here. Now it's got like a lock just right here in the middle, and it's quite hard to push it out of there. It's real obvious even just sitting here. Now the only thing that can really be is the steering stem bearings. They're either rusty or they've got a flat spot in them. When I bought this bike it literally just got a fresh warrant, which is basically a vehicle inspection. Now that shouldn't have passed with those steering bearings like that. It's fairly obvious as soon as you jump on it, and especially when you're moving at low speeds. It's not the safest, to be honest, so it really shouldn't have passed a warrant like that, but it did. So now we've got to fix it. So to get access to the steering stem bearings themselves, we've got to basically take everything off the front end here and remove the forks. So wheel off, take the brakes off, take the wheel off, take the forks out, and handlebars off, and then we can take the stem out of the frame. So first up I'm going to take off the brakes, and then we'll get access to the slacken the front wheel nut and take the front wheel out. Take the brakes off, it's just two 8mm Allen keys. Jesus, they're tight. And then just your wee clip in your mudguard here. Jesus. Now ideally you shouldn't leave your brakes hanging on the actual brake line itself, but I mean these calipers are so light, it's going to be okay for the short time that we're going to be doing it. Now we'll just slacken the front pinch bolts there, which is two 6mm Allen keys. You just need to slacken these ones. And then you want to get your big axle nut slack. Now the previous owner gave me this tool here, which fits in there, and that will be 22. And it will also be bloody tight. So I just want to slacken that just a wee bit, and then we'll jack the bike up and take the wheel. And with that out we can just take the axle nut off while supporting the wheel with your foot. Just watch your spacers. They're both the same anyway, so they're interchangeable. Pull the wheel out. So once we've got the wheel out there, we'll take this mudguard off, which is just 4 10mm bolts. And with that out of the way, we can slacken the pinch bolts on the forks and actually remove the forks themselves. So once you've got the pinch bolts slack, the forks just slide down out of the way. So we'll just do the same to the other side. Just slacken off the 3 6mm. And then the indicator clamp bolt, which is a 10mm. part should slide out also. Next up, I want to take off the brake joiner there, and then we'll take the headlight off. So the brake joiner's just got a 10mm bolt under here. And then the headlight's just another two 12mm. Now I don't want to completely remove these from the bike, so I'll just kind of let them dangle. So I've just moved the brakes around there, they're sitting on the footrest, so there's no weight on them. So next we'll take off the instruments and then the handlebars. So the instruments is just two 10s under there. So what I'm going to try and do here is just leave the handlebars and all that on the top triple tree. Take this big nut off here and just pull the triple tree up and lean it on the tank there. Just saves, it's going to save a bit of work trying to unplug all this. Just if I can let it kind of hang, it's going to be okay. So that big nut, I think, is a 36mm. Wasn't mega tight, which is good. And now this top triple tree should pull off. And then there's an O-ring there as well, which is probably what's causing it to stick. Yes, I've got it. So that's the bugger there. Unfortunately I didn't get a new one of them, but it should be okay. So that will just lift right up now, it should do. Now, let's just put my jumper down on the tank. Just to kind of protect it. I'm just pulling all the cables out of the wee guide here. That is on the cluster. Perfect. So that's actually going to come down and sit down here. Pretty good. And then this should pull up here a good bit. So I've pulled all that out of the way there. I need to be mindful of the brake and clutch fluid there. Just make sure that's not going to leak through. And that my jumper's on the tank there. It should be okay though. And this is all just hanging down here. So I need to be mindful that's touching the frame there. And also that radiator guard. So I just need to be careful with that. But it should be okay. So up top you've got it's kind of like a lock washer. So pull that off. Now there is a special tool for tightening this up because there's a specific torque for that to put the correct preload on the bearings. However, I don't have that tool, so I'm just going to be doing it by feel. So just slacking that off, all I've got is this pair of vice grips. Now this is very good for this sort of thing. You can make a tool, just get like a socket that fits there and notch it out to fit that, or you can buy the proper one from Kawasaki. So that will just pop off like so, and then the triple tree will pull through the bottom. And then push through like that. Now you can see there the state of the bearings. They're all rusty. That is the problem that we are having. Take this top one out. It's all rusty and full of crap. So you can see in the bottom there, little grooves all the way around where the needle rollers sit. So that's what you're feeling when you're riding a bike. It's just all those little flat spots there. And what causes that is lack of grease, and probably just the bike sitting around for a while. Because this bike did sit around for quite a while. Like I said, the previous owner only did about 1,000 k's a year. All that weight's just sitting there pressing on that bearing surface there. So yeah, of course it's going to wear out. And again, the bike is 18 years old, so they're probably originals, to be honest. Definitely due for a replacement. So all I'm going to do now is just get a rag in there, clean all the old grease out with some brake cleaner, and then we'll knock the shells out and put the new ones in. So this next bit's going to be the bit that's slightly tricky. We've got to try and knock these bearings out of here. The bearing shells. Now some bikes actually have like a little lip on the fork stem where you can fit a screwdriver into, but this one does not seem to have that. So yeah, I've got a couple of chisels and a couple of different size screwdrivers, so we'll just try give it a wee bash. They shouldn't be mega tight, so it shouldn't be too hard to do. I was able to get the chisel in like so, and then just chap it up like that to get it started, and then get my pry bar down the top. This bottom one is really buggered. So this is the kit that I went for. This is the All Balls racing kit. Part number 221031. I paid about 100 New Zealand for that. Just got it from my local Kawasaki dealer. I did try and get genuine bearings, but they were hella expensive. About $100 per bearing, and they were out of ex-Japan anyway, so they weren't available. So the kit comes with 2 new taper roller bearings, the shells, and a couple of seals as well. So I'll just bash these new bearing races in. There's no special technique to bashing these in. And to get in that last wee bit, I would recommend just grabbing the old bearing race and setting it on top. And if you put the old one upside down when you're bashing it, it means you can chap it back out easily. And you'll hear that solid thump when it's there. There you go. So that's the fairly easy part done. Now we've got to try and get the bearing off the steering stem as well. This could be a wee bit tricky. First off, I want to get rid of that, sort of all the balls there, so just got a pair of snips. I'll just give that a bash with a screwdriver actually. You can see that bottom one there. See all the marks there from the bearings. They were completely gone. It should never have passed a warrant like that. Right, so I've got a couple of options here. First thing I'm going to try and do is just chap a screwdriver down in between the bearing and the bottom of the steering stem. If that doesn't work, I did bring my grinder. I can also cut that like that and then chap it to break it off. And also, if you've got access to a press, you can get a sandwich plate in there and press that off. And also, you actually do get a special tool that goes down over the tube and screws into there, and then it'll pull it off. But I mean, I don't have that. So we'll just try chapping it to start with and see what happens. There we go. Right, before we put the bearings on, we need to pack them with grease. Now, there's a few ways you can do that. You get a tool that sort of sandwiches that in there, and then you pump up with a grease gun. I generally don't like them. I always pack my bearings by hand. This is the bearing grease I'm going to use, just premium heavy duty castor oil LMX grease. So to pack bearings manually, you want to get a load in your hand. Obviously wear gloves for this. And you want to grab the bearing and do that. Just push it against your hand. And then you'll see the grease come out that top line there. That's what you want to see. So just do that going all the way around. And you basically just force the grease up the back end of the bearing. Doesn't take long to do. Cool. So that's me going all the way around. A bit of grease is coming out the side there. I'll also just take some and just run it around the rollers like that. And that is that bearing packed, ready to go. And I'll just grab this next one and do the same. And that one is now done as well. So I'll just go and shove that one in the top race. Right, now what you want to do is press this bearing on here. Now I've got this wee tool here, this round tube, which will fit over here. Oh, no, it doesn't. I got another one. Does this fit over here? Yes, it does. So this fits over the actual tube here, but it sits on the inside of the bearing. So when you're chapping a bearing on, you want to force this inside lip here on. You don't want to be hitting this outer race here, because you'll just bend that and knock the wee balls out. So you want to chap on this inside edge. Oh, I forgot to put the seal on. Over, like so. And then put your bearing on, like so. Again, you'll feel it when it's down and hear the difference in the chapping. And that's all the way down. Now before I stick that stem back on, I've just grabbed some grease on my finger. Just going to run it along the inside of that bottom race there. And also run it grease up the actual steering tube here. You don't need much in there, it doesn't actually do anything, it's just to more protect it from any sort of moisture that gets in there. So when you're tightening this up, you want to go pretty tight. There's a torque setting in the manual. Like I said, to use that you'll have to buy the special tool. So you want to go really fucking tight. and then just give it a quick wiggle. You just go mega tight to start with, just to seat the bearing in, and then back it off. Now, you can just feel there's just a tiny wee bit of play, just when you wiggle it. So you just want to nip that up, just so the play has gone. And then just put a tiny wee bit of preload on it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So this handlebar can now go back on, like so. And put my O-ring on, and then my washer, and then the big nut. Cool, so now we'll put the gauges back on, headlight back on. This nut's not tightened up yet, but we'll get that last when the bike's on the ground. These are just little 10mm bolts, so just literally a little nip will do them. Again, don't go crazy here. So you just wiggle them around. So generally with forks, you just want that. So you just wanted the top cap just to be, the bottom of the top cap to be level with the top of the top triple tray. So we'll tighten up that top nut now. Cool. So while I'm here, just give the steering a wiggle, make sure none of the cables are binding up, which they're not. So that's all good. So next up we'll chuck the mudguard back on, the wheel, the brakes, and then that's job done. And these just get a wee nip, nothing crazy. I'm just going to chuck a wee bit of grease on the axle, not much, just a wee smear, just makes it easier to put in and out. So we're just going to nip that up just now, and then we'll tighten it up when the bike's on the ground. If we get the brakes back on now. So you want to just slide the brake caliper over the rotor, stick your bolt in, and then nip her up. You don't have to go mega tight with this. Just a wee nip. Put my wee guide in. So again, slide the caliper over, line the bolts up. Tighten it up, don't have to go crazy. Nip up the wee pinch bolts. Just come around and jump on it, see what it feels like. Yeah, can't feel any notchiness there. Give the forks a bounce. Pump up the brake pedal, just in case we've moved those pads out a bit. Yeah. Sorted. Now one last thing I'd recommend you do after doing any job on any vehicle is just go around and touch every bolt you did. So, and I say tight, so that's tight, that one there's tight, that's tight, that's tight, that's tight, those two are tight, those two are tight, that one's tight, 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 Just make sure my cables are all routed correctly. Mud guards tight, tight, tight and tight. Brakes are tight. They're all tight. Guides are in, brakes are tight, axles tight, and iron tight. Perfect. So the reason I just walk around and just check everything tight is just touch it with your finger, even though I know I've tightened everything. Touch it with your finger and that just kind of jogs your memory. Did I tighten that? Yes I did. All good, or no I didn't. Shit, let's tighten that. Just removes any doubt from your mind. So that's the head bearings done on Meanstreak. Pretty much universal to any bike. Wasn't too bad actually. I thought that bottom bearing was going to be hard to get off the stem, but it just chapped right off. The hardest part was actually getting that wheel back on. It was just a bit awkward. If I'd sat on the floor I probably could have got it done better, but I didn't want to get my arse dirty. Let's jump on and take a first spin and see what she feels like. Right guys, so straight away that front end feels completely different, you know? I can wiggle the handlebars without it fighting me. It's not locked in anywhere. I found out when I was coming back from Wellington, I was stuck in a load of traffic and I was trying to filter, but it was really hard to filter. Just because the steering just would lock in the central position and I'd have to fight it to get it to move. It really wasn't safe to be driving, but I didn't really have much choice. So that front end feels quite nice. There's no knocking or that, as if the bearings were loose. It all feels nice and tight. And yeah, I'd call that a success. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. That was just me changing the head bearings on my Meanstreak. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like it, and I will see you guys all in the next one. See you later.